Today's chess lesson will feature a game played in 1998 in Germany. This game is between two top-level Grandmasters. Vladimir Kramnik is on the white side, and Svidler is on the black side. We have reached a relatively equal position. We can see right off the bat that white is a little bit better thanks to his extra space in the center. Due to his pawn formation, and also it is the end game, and you do want to activate your king, give it some more room to move. Sometimes it's good in the center, sometimes it's good on the flank. And right now white's king is activated, so that's a plus for white, whereas black's king is stuck in the corner. It's not doing a whole lot, and it doesn't have many squares that it can move to at the moment. So therefore white has a bit of an advantage here, but certainly black can play on from this position and have good drawing chances depending on what he plays. Now, I did realize something really interesting recently about chess. I've been playing for 12-ish years. I have reached the level of chess expert. And I realized the other day that I have never actually bought a chess board or chess pieces or even a chess clock. I have chess boards, clocks, and pieces, but I basically either won them in a tournament or I received them as gifts from someone else. So that is pretty interesting that after 12 years of playing chess, and I'm an expert, so I'm a decent player, but I've never actually went out and bought a chessboard. So I'm going to have to do that at some point. There are some boards that I think are pretty awesome that I would like to have. Alright, so it is black's turn to move in this position. Let's see how he handles it. Oh, one more thing. This game is going to go over this really important strategic concept that Grandmasters use all the time and top players use. It's not a difficult concept to grasp, but it is a concept that will definitely improve your game, middle game, end game. It's basically strategically sacrificing a pawn. So you're not, sacrificing a pawn for checkmate. That would be tactically. This is more of a strategic principle. You can sacrifice pawns for a better placement for your knight or bishop, or to open up more room. You can also sacrifice a pawn to trap one of your opponent's pieces and basically render it useless so that it can't participate in the defense of the position. And like this game, you can also sacrifice a pawn to create dangerous passed pawns in the center of the board and use them to win the game. So let's take a look at this. Black continues with e5, trying to grab some space, doesn't want white to have all the space in the center. That is logical. White responds with h3, and yes, indeed, white could have captured with this pawn. But after black takes back with the knight, we see that he has managed to blockade white's pawn on e4. And Kramnik didn't want his pawn blockaded because then it can't support the d pawn as it moves up the board. So it would make it much harder for white to win. That was definitely possible, indeed playable, but I like Kramnik's move h3. It's brilliant here. He's willing to even sacrifice the bishop pair, or not really sacrifice, but give up the bishop pair and even a pawn in order to create two dangerous passed pawns. Now here black continued with g5. The idea here is that if white plays this pawn forward, then black could set up another type of blockade with the bishop on e5. Now, why is this so good? Well, because it's difficult for white's pawns to move forward. It's difficult for him to promote it into a queen when the supporting pawns are blockaded, so it's difficult to move it up the board without the support of the other pawns. That bishop is also very difficult to dislodge. In addition, at this current moment, white's bishop on b3 is on the same color as all of white's pawns. So this bishop is almost like a pawn. Normally in chess you want your pawns on the opposite color as your bishop, or on the opposite color of your bishop, so that you can control more space. But with all these pawns on the same color as this bishop, the bishop is not as effective, it's not as powerful, and it's going to have a hard time. Now white and this variation could win the pawn king d3. Yes, that's true. Black would be sacrificing a pawn, but he would have this blockade and therefore better chances for a draw. So that was one idea that Black was probably looking at. Instead of all that though, white just plays g3. He defends the f-pawn. He doesn't allow black to blockade on e5, and he just sacrifices on g4. Then we see e5, and these pawns are shutting in the dark squared bishop, making it very ineffective. It's not able to have much activity here. It's pretty passive. So that's also what white is doing here, is sacrificing a pawn to make black's bishop passive and to create a pass pawn. Alright, so there was a g3, e5, and then bishop takes knight, king captures back, rook fc8, and rook a to d1 in order to protect the king from possible checks. Then rook comes down to c3 to try and come behind white's pawns, but white blocks that and prevents black from being able to get behind white's position to try and stop the pawns. It's difficult to stop the pawns with the rook if the rook is in front, because the pawns are already on the 5th rank. So it's much easier to try and get behind the pawns to stop them from moving forward. That's the idea that black has here. So after rook ac8, we see d6, pushing the pawns forward. b5. Okay, after b5, rook takes c3, white captures, and if black were to take it back with his rook, then d7 would be played and the pawn is unstoppable. So it doesn't take it back with the rook because of that, but instead with the pawn. And then e6 can't be captured because bishop would take back, check, and pick up the rook. King moves over, check, and then bishop takes f7. And here, after 30 moves, Peter Svidler resigned. Really amazing game from Kramnik. Obviously, king takes bishop is bad because d7 and white queens. If the king moves to d7 here, then just capture on g5. The h-pawn is weak. White is completely winning here. So thank you for watching this video, and if you haven't yet had a chance to subscribe to my channel, go ahead and subscribe. Also, share this video with your friends.